Who goes missing from a ferry and never to be seen again? A ferry out in the middle of the ocean. Hey everybody, welcome to the G. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina, and today we are doing Missing in Death. Missing in Death, book 29.5. Book 29 is Kindred in Death, and book 30 is Fantasy in Death. And it's one of those short novellas way back when Nora Roberts used to put out, well, she's still putting out, she puts out 3 Nora Roberts, and then she puts out 2 J.D. Robbs, the Eve Dallas series. And way back when, she would do the 3 Nora Roberts, the 2 J.D. Robbs, 3 Nora Roberts romance a year, 2 Eve Dallas hardcover romance a year, and then 2 or 3, so it's mostly 2, ebooks or short stories that they would put in novellas with other authors. So this is where you can find it. It's Missing in Death in the Lost book by J.D. Robb. It also has Patricia Gaffney, Mary Blaney, and Ruth Ryan Lanigan in it. But it's Missing in Death. And this is what the audio looks like. Missing in Death here. It's part of a set now. It's I read them in order. So I did Eternity in Death already, and I did Ritual in Death already. Now we're doing Missing in Death. And a lot of people have trouble trying to find these little novellas. They're like, what? I missed it. What? Who? What? Where? So let's get into it. Eve Dallas is a lieutenant in the New York City Police and Security Department. She, I guess it's about 2 years into the series now. We're in this is book 29.5. Book 30 is coming up. We'll be doing that soon. So there's over 30 books in the series as it stands to this book. To date, there's over 60 books currently, and we will be doing them all. But, just a second here. Sorry, he was getting in the middle of wires. My pal here, he's the oldest one in the house. He's 17 and a half. Really bad arthritis in the hips. He's also a diabetic like his daddy. So Eve Dallas is lieutenant in the New York City Police and Security Department in 2060s type era. Some people don't like these because they're a little futuristic. I think they're fine. Some of the stuff would be cool. Wouldn't you love an auto chef? You'd walk up to this machine and go, I want a pizza, and it would produce a pizza instantly. You remember in the olden days, you'd go into your work lounge and they'd have that vending machine, and it would have cold sandwiches pre-done like they do at 7-Eleven now. And then they would have like instant soups that you could buy, and then you would nuke yourself some hot water and you'd have a noodle soup. Or they'd have soups in styrofoam containers that you could put in the microwave and heat up. That type situation. Her car also hoovers. It can go off the ground and shoot so you can avoid traffic. And now that she's got a good one, Promises in Death, Rourke gave her the DLE, the Dallas Lieutenant E vehicle. And 30 books later, she's still learning how to use it. I think it takes her a few books before she finds that it too has an auto chef in it. Go on. So, her partner is Peabody. Her Nadine is the newspaper reporter, TV journalist, who does now what's happening now in the news now is Nadine's thing. She's also written a couple of books, and we will be getting into the eye cove thing. God, Eve is gonna go nuts. Dr. Mira, the psychiatrist on hand for the New York City Police and Security Department. Feeney, her old boss, captain of EDD. Peabody, her partner, and McNabb, her partner in life partner, her outside partner. He works in EDD, Electronic Detectives Division. Mavis Freestone is a rock star now, has a child, Bella, but not in this book. Bella was just born, or will be born. No, she was just born. And then her partner is Leonardo. So we've got all these people that Eve was really alone most of her life, and she grew up in the foster system. She has not fears anymore. She's getting better at it, but she doesn't like social situations. And Promises in Death is hysterical because it's got a lot of social situations, and she hates shopping too, and she's got to shop in Promises. The Christmas books are one of my favorites when Eva's got to do stuff. And Tico will show up again. He's a fan favorite. So what I wanted to do just a little bit, because a lot of you don't get to see these, and like I said, even though this title says Lost, it's really missing in Death here for the audiobook. I have all of J.D. Robb on hardcover. You know how hard it was to find the early ones on hardcover? Some of them are large print, and some of them are missing stuff. As the paperbacks were updated and republished and reprinted, there's a couple of extra paragraphs here and there in the books. So I have some of them I have in hardcover and paperback. We'll have to do a J.D. Robb binge run one day, and I'll go through all 60 of them. That could take a couple hours. You have the patience for that? Would you like that? Hey, let me know in the comments. I could go. There's 60 of them up there. It would be hard to go through each and every single one of them. I'm a character person. I love series. I'm a series person. I like to read about the character progression from book to book to book. I like to watch them grow. I love it when a book has 10 or more books in it already, and then I can binge read. We're doing a whole bunch. We're doing The Vampire of the Argonautes. We're doing Sparks. I'm going to do Donna Andrews, Victoria Thompson, Lorna Barrett. We'll do Janet. I say Janet. Everybody knows Janet Ivanovich. Stephanie Plum. We'll do Catherine Coulter. We'll do Cheryl and Kenyon. We will eventually get around to Patterson. I've got most of his too. Alex Cross and the Women's Murder Club. Sue Grafton, the Alphabet series. It's unfortunate that she passed before she could write Z. Rumors, unsubstantiated rumors, there's no proof of any of what I say here, that some people say she wrote it, some people say there's just an outline for Z. I believe there is just an outline for Z, but her wishes were that no ghostwriter be hired, that it just be left. So the series ends in Y. So those are books easy to pick up. A is for alibi, B is for burglary. I forget, but they're ABC. So they're easy to read in order. Just like Janet Ivanovich, Stephanie Plum is easy to read in order. 1 for the money, 2 for the dough, 3 to get deadly. 4, I forget what 4 is. And it's high 5, hot 6, 7 up, hard 8, to the 9s, all the way through. There's Dirty 30 comes out in November. So what I thought I would do here, because most of you seem to have missed the little novellas, I thought I'd read a little. So what do you think? Shall we get into it just a little bit? I watched a video the other day for a few minutes of somebody just going like this. And there were 300 people watching a person read. I was like, dang, 300 people watching her read, and I can't even get 2 people to listen to me read. So please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. I don't know what it is out there. But if you go on a video, some of them, even the more popular people, like with hundreds and millions of people subscribing, and you figure it out, there's about 10% of the people that watch those videos like those videos. I don't know why. If a million people watch, why can't at least 500,000 like the video? No, it'd probably be more like 5 or 6,000 like the video. Except if you're a music rock star, then you get more. But I really need the likes and subscribes. It's been 8 months here and not doing so good there. I could use some support, some enthusiasm, some little pats on the back with thumbs up. One a day, kissed gently by summer, 3,761 passengers cruised the New York harbor on the Staten Island ferry. 2 of them had murder on their minds. The other 3,759 aboard the bright orange ferry christened Hillary Rodham Clinton were simply along for the ride. Most were tourists who happily took their vids and snaps of the retreating Manhattan skyline or that iconic symbol of freedom, the Statue of Liberty. Even in 2060, nearly 2 centuries after she'd first greeted hopeful immigrants to a new world, nobody beat the lady. Those who jockeyed for the best views, munched on soy chips, sucked down tubes of soft drinks from the snack bars, while the ferry chugged placidly along on calm waters under baby blue skies. With the bold sun streaming, the scent of sunscreen mixed with the scent of water, many jammed the decks for the duration of the 25-minute ride from Lower Manhattan to Staten Island. A turbo would have taken half the time, but the ferry wasn't about expedience, it was about tradition. Most planned to get off at St. George, jam the terminal that simply load back on again to complete the round trip. It was free, it was summer, it was a pretty way to spend an hour. Some midday commuters eschewing the bridges, the turbos, or the air trams sat inside out of the biggest crowds and passed the time with their PPCs or links. Summer meant more kids, babies cried or slept, toddlers whined or giggled, and parents sought to distract the bored or fractions by pointing out the grand lady or a passing boat. For Carolee Grogan of Springfield, Missouri, the ferry ride checked off another item on her must-do list on the family vacation she'd lobbied for. Other must-dos included the top of the Empire State Building, the Central Park Zoo, the Museum of Natural History, St. Pat's, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, though she wasn't sure she'd successfully harangue her husband and 10 and 7-year-old sons into that one. Ellis Island, Memorial Park, a Broadway show, she didn't care which one, and shopping on Fifth Avenue. In the spirit of fairness, she added on a ball game at Yankee Stadium. Go Yankees! Unless you're Queens. And then it's Go Mets! Y'all don't think I'm from New York, do y'all? It's Long Island. Sorry. Yes. I didn't care. Have you seen a Subway series lately? I love Subway series when the Mets and the Yankees play each other. That's the way to go. And you've got the Islanders, which is the hockey team. We have a basketball team. Well, the Nets. Are they still New Jersey Nets? Or the Knicks? I'll have to check on that one. We have football. We have the Giants, right? Yeah. But I'm more into the baseball. I only watch football one day a year. Can you guess what day that one day a year is? I watch football. something called the Super Bowl. Sorry, I don't know what's got into me today. In the spirit of fairness, she added on a ball game at Yankee Stadium and fully accepted she would have to wander the Cathedral of Tiffany's alone while her gang hit the video haven of Times Square. At 43, Carol was living a long-cherished dream. She finally pushed, shoved, and nagged her husband east of the Mississippi. Could Europe be far behind? Well, actually, it's ahead. But anyway. When she started to take a snapshot of her boys, as she called Steve and their sons, a man standing nearby offered to take one of the whole family. Carolee, happy, turned over her camera, posed with the boys with their dignified Lady of Liberty behind them. See? She gave her husband an elbow poke as they went back to looking out at the water. He was nice. Not at all New Yorkers are rude and nasty. Carolee, he was a tourist, just like us. He's probably from Toledo or somewhere. But he smiled when he said it was more fun to yank her chain than to admit he was having a pretty good time. I'm going to ask him. Steve only shook his head as his wife walked over to chat up the picture taker. It was so Carolee. She could and did anything, talk to anyone, anywhere about anything. When she came back, she offered Steve a smug smile. He's from Maryland. Or Maryland. Or Maryland. I always call it Maryland. But, she added with a quick finger jab, he lived in New York for almost 10 years. He's going over to Staten Island to visit his daughter. She just had a baby, a girl. His wife's been staying with them the past few days to help out, and she's meeting him at the terminal. It's their first grandchild. Did you find out how long he's been married, where and how he met his wife, who he voted for in the last election? She laughed and gave Steve another poke. I'm thirsty. She glanced down at her youngest. You know, me too. Why don't you and I go get some drinks for everybody? She grabbed his hand and snaked her way through the people crowd on the deck. Are you having a good time, Pete? It's pretty neat. I really want to go see the penguins. Tomorrow, first thing. Can we get a soy dog? Where are you putting them? You had one an hour ago. They smell good. Vacation meant indulgence, she decided. Soy dogs it is. But I have to pee. Okay. As a veteran mother, she coped out the restrooms when they boarded the ferry. Now she detoured to steer them toward the nearest facilities. And of course, since Pete mentioned it now, she had to pee. She pointed out the men's room. If you get out first, you stand right here. You remember what the ferry staff looks like, the uniforms. If you need help, go right to one of them. Mom, I'm just going to pee. Well, me too. You wait for me here if you get out first. She watched him go in, knowing full well he rolled his eyes the minute his back was to her. It amused her as she turned toward the woman's room and saw the out of order sign. Shoot. She weighed her options, hold it in until Pete came out, then hold it some more while they get the soy dogs and drinks, because he'd whine and sulk otherwise, then make her way to the other restroom. Or maybe she could just peek in. Surely not all the stalls were out of order. She only needed one. She opened the door, hurried in. She didn't want to leave Pete alone for long. She made the turn at the line of sinks, her mind on getting the provisions and squeezing back to the rail to watch Staten Island came into view. She stopped dead, her limbs frozen in shock. Blood, she thought. She could only think, so much blood. The woman on the floor seemed bathed in it. The man standing over the body held a still dripping knife in one hand and a stunner in the other. I'm sorry, he said, and to her shocked mind sounded sincere. Even as Carolee sucked in the air to scream, took the first stumbling step back, he triggered the stunner. Really very sorry, he said, as Carolee fell to the floor. Aw. Racing across New York Harbor in a turbo wasn't how Lieutenant Eve Dallas expected to spend her afternoon. She played second lead that morning to her partner's primary role in the unfortunate demise of Vicky Trender, the third wife of the unrepentant Alan Trender, who smashed her skull with an inferior bottle of California Chardonnay. According to the new widower, it wasn't accurate to say he bashed her brains out when she simply hadn't had any brains to begin with. While the prosecutor and the counsel for the defense hammered out a plea agreement, Eve had made a dent in her paperwork, discussed strategy with two of her detectives on an ongoing case, and congratulated another one on closing one. A pretty good day in her estimate. Now she and Peabody, her partner, were speeding across the water in a boat she judged to be about the size of a surfboard toward the orange hulk of a ferry stalled halfway between Manhattan and Staten Island. "This is absolutely mag!" Peabody stood near the bow, her square-jawed face lifted to the wind, her short, flippy hair flying. "Why, geez, Dallas!" Peabody lowered her shades down her nose, exposing delighted brown eyes. "We're getting a boat ride. We're on the water. Half the time you forget Manhattan's an island. That's what I like about it. Out here it makes you wonder how come it doesn't sink. All that weight, the buildings, the streets, the people, it should go down like a stone." "Come on," with a laugh, Peabody pushed her shades back in place. "Statue of Liberty," she pointed out. "She's the best." Eve wouldn't argue. She'd come close to dying inside the landmark, fighting radical terrorists bent on blowing it up. Even now she could look at its lines, its grandeur, and seeing her husband bleeding, clinging to an edge outside the proud face. They'd survived that one, she mused, and Rourke had defused the bomb, saved the day. Symbols mattered, and because they fought and bled, people could chug by on the ferry every day and snap their pictures of freedom. That was fine. That was the job. But she didn't get out why homicide had to zip off the island because the Department of Transportation cops couldn't find a passenger. Blood all over a bathroom and missing woman. Interesting, sure, she decided, but not really her turf. In fact, it wasn't turf at all. It was water. It was a big orange boat on the water. Why don't boats sink? The errant thought reminded her that sometimes they did, and she decided not to dwell on it. When the turbo approached the big orange boat, she noted people ranged along the rail on tiers of the decks. Some of them waved. Beside her, Peabody waved back. "Cut it out," Eve ordered. "Sorry, it's knee-jerk. Looks like DOT sent out backup," she commented, nodding toward the turbos at the base of the ferry with the Department of Transportation logo embossed on the hull. "I hope she didn't fall over or jump, but somebody would have noticed that, right? More likely she wandered off from the passenger area, got lost, and is currently trying to wander back." "Blood," Peabody reminded her, and Eve shrugged. "Let's just wait and see." That, too, was part of the job, the waiting and seeing. She'd been a cop for a dozen years and knew the dangers of jumping to conclusion. She shifted her weight as the turbo slowed, bracing on long legs while she scanned the rails. The faces, the open arms, her short hair fluttered around her face while those eyes, golden brown, long and cop flat, studied what might or might not have been a crime scene. When the turbo was secured, she stepped off. She judged the man who stepped forward to offer his hand as late 20s. He wore the casual summer khakis and light blue shirt with its DOT emblem, while sun-streaked hair waved around a face tanned by sun or design. Pale green eyes contrasted with the deeper tone and added an intensity. "Lieutenant Eve Dallas, I'm Inspector Warren. I'm glad you're here." "You haven't located your passenger, Inspector?" "No, a search is still underway." He gestured for them to walk with him. "We added a dozen officers to the DOT crew aboard to complete the search and to secure area where the missing woman was last seen." They started up a set of stairs. "How many passengers aboard?" The ticket counters The ticker counted 3,761 boarding at Whitehall. Inspector, it wouldn't be procedure to call homicide on a missing passenger. No, but none of this is hitting SOP. I have to tell you, Lieutenant, it doesn't make sense. He took the next set of stairs, placed, glancing over at the people hugging the rail. I don't mind admitting the situation is above my pay grade, and right now most of the passengers are being patient. It's mostly tourists, and this is the kind of adventure. But if we hold the ferry here much longer, it's not going to be pretty. Eve snapped onto the deck and where DOT officials had cordoned off a path. Why don't you give me a rundown, Inspector? The missing woman is Carolee Grogan, tourist from Missouri, on board with her husband and two sons, age 43. I've got her description and photo taken aboard this afternoon. She and her youngest went to the drinks, hit the Johns first. He went into the men's room and she was going into the women's. Told him to wait for her right outside if he got out first. He waited and she didn't come out. Warren paused outside the restroom area, nodded to another DOT official on the restroom's door. Nobody else went in or out either. After a few minutes, he called her on his link. She didn't answer. He called his father, and the father and the other son came over. The father, Stephen Grogan, asked or a woman, Sarah Hunnings, if she'd go in and check on his wife. Warren opened the door, and this is what she found inside. Eve stepped in behind Warren. She smelled the blood immediately. A homicide cop gets a nose for it. It soared the citrus sterilized odor of hot in the black and white room with its steel sinks and around the dividing wall the white doored stalls. It was washed over the floor, spreading dark pool that it snaked in trails along the white slashed over the stall doors, the opposing wall like abstract graffiti. If that's Grogan, Eve said, you're not looking for a missing passenger. You're looking for a dead one. Wow. I've got a little more battery life. Should I read another chapter? Or should we call it quits? You got it in you? Can you stick on a little? What do you think? Just a few more minutes, because my battery is dying. And it's just me reading books, talking books. There's no special effects here. I really could use your support. And don't you, I love Eve Dallas. She's just the best. Record on, Peabody! Eve switched on her own. Dallas, Lieutenant Eve, Peabody, Detective Delia, Warren, DOT Inspector Jake, he supplied. On scene aboard Staten Island Ferry. It's the Hillary Rodham Clinton, he added. Second deck, portside woman's restroom. She cocked a brow, nodded, responding to report of missing passenger. Grogan, Carolee, last seen entering this area. Peabody, get a sample of the blood. We'll need to make sure it's human, then type it. She opened the field kit she hadn't fully believed she'd need for seal it. How many people have been in and out of here since Grogan was missed? Since I've been on board, just me. Prior to the best of my knowledge, Sarah Humming, Stephen Grogan, and two ferries officers on board. There's an out of order sign on the door. Yeah. But she came in anyway. Nobody we've spoken to can absolutely confirm she told the kid she was going in. Sealed. Eve stepped into the first of the four stalls, waved a hand over the sensor. The toilet flushed efficiently. She repeated the gesture in the other three stalls with the same result. Appears to be in order. It's human, Peabody told her, holding up her gauge. Type A, negative. Some smears, no drag marks, Eve murmured. She gestured toward a narrow utility closet. Who opened that? I did. On the chance she or her body was in there, it was locked. There's only one way in and out. Peabody walked around the sink. No windows. If that's Carolee Grogan's blood, she didn't stand up and walk out of here. Eve stood at the edge of the blood pool. How do you get a dead body out of a public restroom on a ferry in the middle of the harbor under the noses of more than 3,000 people? And why the hell don't you leave it where it dropped in the first place? Inquiring minds want to know. It's not an answer to that, Jake began, but this is a tourist boat. It doesn't carry any vehicles, has extra concession areas. People tend to hug the rails and look out or hang in a concession and snack as they watch out the windows. Still, it's a lot of luck and enormous cajones to cart a bleeding body along the deck. Balls maybe, but nobody got that kind of luck. I'll need this room sealed, Inspector, and I want to talk to the missing woman's family and the witness. Peabody, let's get the sweepers out here. I want every inch of this room covered. Eve considered Jake's foresight in having the Grogan family sequestered in one of the canteens solid. It kept them away from other passengers, gave them seats and access to food and drink. That, she assumed, had kept the kids calm. Calm enough, she noted, for the smaller of the two boys to curl up on the narrow seat of the booth with his head in his father's lap. The man continued to stroke the boy's hair, and his face was both pale and frightened when Eve crossed to him. Mr. Grogan, I'm Lieutenant Eve Dallas with the New York City Police and Security Department. This is Detective Peabody. You found her? You found Carol Lee? We haven't yet located your wife. She told me to wait. The boy with his head on Steve's lap opened his eyes. I did, but she didn't come back. Did you see her go into the other bathroom? But she said she was gonna, and then we were going to get dogs and drinks, and she gave me the routine. Routine? He sat up but leaned against his father's side. How I had to wait right there, and how if I needed anything, I was supposed to get one of the guys who work on the boat, the uniform guys. Okay then, you went into the men's room, and it was only for a minute. I just had to, and then I came out and waited like she said. It always takes girls longer. But it was really long, and I was thirsty. I used my link. He slid his eyes towards his father. Why, we're only allowed to use them if it's really important, but I was thirsty. It's okay, Pete. She didn't answer, so Pete tagged me, and Will and I headed back to where he was waiting. They'd been gone at least 10 minutes by then. There was the out-of-order sign on the door, so I thought she might have used another restroom. Except she wouldn't. She wouldn't leave Pete. So I asked this woman if she'd just take a look inside, and then he shook his head. She said there was blood. The older boy swallowed. The lady came out yelling there was blood. I went in. Steve rubbed his eyes. I thought maybe she fell, hit her head, but she wasn't in there. There was blood, Will said. Your mom wasn't in there, Steve said. She's somewhere else. Where? Pete demanded in a voice perilously close to weeping. Where did she go? That's what we're going to find out, Peabody spoke with easy confidence. Pete, Will, why don't you help me get drinks for everybody? Inspector Warren, is it okay if we forage in here? You bet. I'll give you a hand, he added a warm smile. And make it Jake. Eve slid into the booth. I need to ask you some questions. It was too much blood, he said in a soft voice, a voice that wouldn't carry to his children. A fatal loss of blood. I'm a doctor. I'm an ER doctor. And that much blood lost without immediate medical attention. For God's sakes, what happened to Carol Lee? Do you know her blood type, Dr. Grogan? Yes, of course. She's O positive. You certain? Yes, I am. She and Pete are O. I'm A positive, so's Will. It wasn't her blood. The blood in the restroom wasn't hers. Not hers. He trembled and watched him struggle for composure. But his eyes teared. Not her blood. Not Carol Lee's blood. Why were you going to Staten Island? What? We weren't. He pressed his hands to his face again, breathed and lowered them. Steady nerves, he thought. She imagined an ER doctor needed them. We were taking the ride over, then we were going to ride back, just for the experience. We're on vacation. It's our second day on vacation. Does she know anyone in New York? No. He shook his head slowly. She wasn't in there, but she wouldn't have left Pete. It doesn't make sense. She doesn't answer her link. I tried it over and over. He pushed his across the table. She doesn't answer. He glanced toward the concession where Peabody and Jake kept the kids busy, then leaned closer to Eve. She would have never left our boy, not willingly. Something happened in that room. Somebody died in that room. If she saw what happened, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still searching. I'm going to check out the status. Rising, she signaled to Peabody. It's not her blood. It's the wrong type. That's something. They're really nice kids. They're scared. They're on vacation, don't know anyone in New York, according to the husband, and he comes off straight to me. What doesn't come off is how a body could disappear. A woman who we'll presume for the moment is alive could disappear, and potentially a killer abductor could disappear. They're here somewhere. Get the wit's statement, though I don't think that's going to add anything. I'm calling in more officers, ours, and DOTs. We're going to need to get data, statements, and to do a search on every person on this damn ferry before we let anyone off. I'll take care of our end before I talk to the woman. He's kind of flirting with me. What? Who? The adorable inspector, please. No, seriously, I'm spoken for, Peabody added with a flutter of lashes, but it's still flattering to have cute guys flirt. Do the job, Peabody. Shaking her head as a partner went out to do just that, Eve gestured to Jake. We're going to need more men. I can't let anyone off until we've confirmed ID, interviewed, and searched. Over 3,000 people? He let out a low whistle. You're going to have a revolt. What got is a missing woman and very likely a dead body somewhere on this vessel. I've also got a killer. I want someone in here with them, and I want a look at all security discs, cams, monitors. That's no problem. We need an E-man to try to triangulate the signal with Grogan's link. If she's still got it, we may be able to locate her. What time did she go missing? As close as we can determine, right about 1:30. Eve glanced at her wrist. More than an hour now. I want to. She heard the boom, the gunfire crackle, the shouts. Before the next blast, she was rushing through the door and out on deck. Passengers whistled, stomped, cheered. An impressive shower of fireworks exploded in the sky. Fireworks, for Christ's sakes, it's still daylight. There's nothing scheduled. Diversion, she murmured, and began to push and shove her way to the opposite direction of the show. Get somebody to find the source. Stop it. I'm already on it, Jake said, and shouted into his communicator. Where are we going? The scene of the crime. What? I can't hear a freaking thing. Say again? He yelled into his communicator. Say again? Eve broke through the celebrating crowd, ducked under the barricade. As she stopped, as she saw the woman arguing frantically with DOT officer guarding the door of the restroom. Carolee, she called out, and the woman whirled around. Her face was deathly pale, with high spots of color on her cheeks and purple knot on her forehead. What? What is this? I can't find my boy. I can't find my son. The eyes were wrong, Eve thought, a little glassy, a little shocky. It's okay. I know where he is. I'll take you to him. He's okay? You? Who are you? Lieutenant Dallas. Eve watched Carolee's eyes on as she took out her badge. I'm the police. Okay. He's a good boy, but he knows better than this. He was supposed to wait right here. I'm sorry to be so much trouble. Where did you go, Carolee? She trailed off. I went into the restroom, didn't I? I'm sorry, I have a headache. I was so worried about Pete. Just wait until She stepped into the snack bar when Eve opened the door, then slapped her hands on her hips. Peter James Grogan, you in so much trouble. The boy, the father, his father moved like one unit, bolting across the room. Didn't I specifically tell you not to? This time the words were knocked out as her three boys grabbed her in frantic embraces. Well, for heaven's sake, if you think that's going to soften me up after you disobeyed me, it's not. Only a little. She stroked the boy's hair as he clung to her legs. Steve, you're shaking. What is it? What's wrong? He pulled back to kiss her. Her mouth, her cheeks. You're hurt. You hit your head. She lifted her fingers to touch her bump. Ouch. How did I do that? I don't feel quite right. Sit down, Pete. Pete, will you let your mother have some room? Sit down here. Carolee, let me take a look at you. took her hands, pressed them to his lips. Everything's okay now. It's okay now. But it wasn't, Eve thought. Not for everyone. Someone was dead. Someone had caused that death, and they were both missing. So check it out. Lost, J.D. Robb, Patricia Gavney, Mary Blaney, Ruth Ryan Lanigan, missing in death. And please like and subscribe, and you can finish the book and find out who died and where they are. It's really cute, and it's really creative. It's very creative where the body is. It's very creative, and it's very good. And McNabb shows up, and the gang shows up, and it's a good book. So please check it out, and please hit the like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed reading along with me. I'll read some more if you want, but have a good day. Thank you.